Welcome to Dreadful Digest, where we look at your favorite horror novels and rip apart their adaptations. I'm one of your hosts, Tessa Nelson.
I am another host, Michael Estrada.
I am also a host, and I am Sam.
And this is part 2 of our Invisible Man series. Last episode, we looked at the 1933 version and the book. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at the 2020 movie that just came out with Elizabeth Moss.
Just 4 years ago.
Well, just 4 years ago.
Came out.
A pandemic movie. I don't know. It feels like it's recent, but we also lost 2 years. So
True.
yeah.
So true.
So I'm going to dive in. This episode is going to be a little different because I'm going to be doing the synopsis and Sam is going to be doing the research.
I'm doing the research.
So I don't think I can top your guys' synopsi.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
you got it.
Synopsi?
Is that the right word?
I don't know. Synopsis?
It's definitely synopses, but like it's
Oh.
okay.
Oh, yeah. It's one of them ESs for
Okay.
sure.
It's okay though.
Synopses.
I like synopsi.
I like that too. I'm going to be going into the 2020 movie, which, spoiler alert, is very different from the book.
Oh, actually, real quick, can
Yeah.
I just say, if you haven't read the book or anything and you want a quick summary, just go to the last episode and listen to like the first 5 minutes or something.
Quick summary?
Yeah, I tried my best.
Okay.
All right? But if you want a summary of the book, check
Honestly,
out our last episode.
Yeah, like better than Spark Notes. If you're a student who has to read this book for some reason, like, yeah, like the last episode, first 5 minutes, you nailed it.
Oh my God. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. My ego really needed this.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
At least I think
No,
so.
your synopsis is way better than what this is going to be. So definitely go check that out if you want a good synopsis, because you're not getting it here. So our 2020 movie opens up with Cecilia Cass, played by Elizabeth Moss, a Scientologist. In real life.
Critical info to the plot.
In real life, not in the movie.
Damn, right away?
Well, maybe in the movie.
I feel like maybe in the considering her boyfriend, like maybe.
Maybe. Well,
Yeah, how
yes.
did they meet?
Celia, our main character, is trapped in a controlling and abusive relationship with Adrian Griffin. Griffin. Wink, wink. And this guy is like super wealthy. He's an optics engineer. He does sciencey things. And one night she has an opportunity to escape from his highly secure house. There's like walls. It's like cement. It's crazy. This house is crazy.
Only windows. 90% windows.
Yes. So minimalist. It's wild.
Hmm.
So she drugs Adrian and her sister as her getaway driver. She manages to escape. She stays with her childhood friend James and his teenage daughter, and she has like PTSD from being in an abusive relationship for so long. She's too scared to even leave the house, and they're kind of trying to help her get back out into the world. 2 weeks after the escape, Adrian supposedly has committed suicide and has left her $5 million, but she doesn't buy it. She doesn't believe that he's actually dead because weird things keep happening. The drugs she used to drug him return in her bathroom, which she thought she lost. And so weird things like that keep happening. She's like, this guy's not dead. Something's fishy is going on. Other people are like, you're paranoid, you're crazy. Like, she starts losing relationships because she believes that he's alive. She's trying to uncover his plot. And the plot in question is that Adrian created an invisibility suit and uses it to stalk her and murder the people around her. Or person? No, people. There's multiple people. And he even goes so far as to killing her sister and blaming her for the murder. She eventually gets Adrian's confession at the end on tape, and we end with Cecilia using a spare bodysuit to kill Adrian. Basically, that's the synopsis. That's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Not as in depth, but you know, you get the gist.
Oh, can we talk about like, 'cause we didn't do first impressions, or not first impressions. We didn't do like our first exposure.
Yes,
Last
I did
episode.
forgot to.
Do you want to
bring
do
that
that
up.
this episode?
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, I'm gonna lead the questions this time. What? And then I'm gonna share mine last. What were your first like encounters with the Invisible Man? Oh no.
Blanket is falling. The Invisible Man did it.
For the viewers at home and for the listeners at home, the set's falling apart. Anyway,
As
go
usual.
on.
Are we talking about the original or this one?
Like either, I think, because now that we're in the second episode, like any Invisible Man content counts.
All the Invisible
Yeah.
Men.
Okay.
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 All of them.
Every single one.
Every single Invisible Man to ever exist.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of a movie called The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Actually, yes.
Heard of it.
Okay. I don't know. This movie is truly insane. It's like a movie about like a Ocean's 11 type group, but they're all like kind of they're like monsters. There's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde guy.
Really?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's what that was about.
Yes, and there's like it's like almost like a superhero movie, but with like old school monster. And the Invisible Man is one of the guys.
It sounds like
That's
a Guy Ritchie
cool.
movie from the title.
Didn't he literally make a movie recently that was like
The Gentleman. That's
Yeah.
that's why I think that. Yeah.
something of gentlemanly warfare or
so-
something
yeah,
like
something
it
like
literally came
that,
out this
yeah.
year. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But no, that was my first experience with an Invisible Man. I think it is supposed to be him from the Invisible
The
Man.
OG
Yeah,
Griffin.
I think it is supposed to be. I haven't seen that movie in
That's
forever.
fun.
It's a really silly movie. We should watch that movie. But that's it. That's my first experience with an Invisible Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had watched the movie a few years ago because I think it was on like HBO Max or Shudder or something, and I wanted to like watch a bunch of old Universal movies, and I only got to that one. But I loved it. I loved the character of Griffin, as I mentioned briefly last episode. So much so that I got this poster. I just think he's a fun time. He's cool.
Yeah.
Adam Driver plays him in Marriage Story. He dresses up as the Invisible Man
Oh, does
as
he?
well.
I
Mhm.
don't remember
So
that.
another bonus for the Invisible Man. Another point.
Another point.
So yeah, that's my background with the Invisible Man.
Okay, great.
You?
I have to share my story, which of course,
Oh.
if you've ever been in 11th grade.
This is a shared story between me.
Yeah,
and
actually, you and I both have this experience.
we
Except
both
I
have.
was a little older than you, which I think is a little less excusable. But so when I was in 11th grade in high school, we were allowed to choose a movie. No,
Book.
we were not. That was the wrong thing to say. Freudian slip. We were allowed to choose a book written by, that year was about American authors, so it had to be an American author. And so I'm looking through this list of books. I'm like, oh my God, Invisible Man. I know what that is. That sounds interesting to me. And so I pick it up thinking it's going to be this, I think it's going to be about the monster Invisible Man. Why did I think this? No idea. Every single other book on there was like Huck Finn. Like, I don't know why I thought that I was going to be reading like this science fiction novel from the 1800s. But anyway, Invisible Man is an extremely different novel from The Invisible Man. If you've ever read Invisible Man, and especially if you think it's going to be The Invisible, I honestly got through like 50% of the book and being like, I don't think
this
I
guy's
don't think
invisible.
he's ever going to turn invisible.
I don't think this guy's gonna be
I mean, in the
invisible.
context of the book, like, yes, he is. But like,
Yeah.
read it and you'll understand. Highly recommend that book. It is not the book that we are discussing or
Yeah.
discussed last episode.
Mhm.
That, I guess that was my first experience. But then other than that, I never really knew anything until I read the book recently. Like I said on the last episode, until I listened to it, I literally thought it was like a paranormal or like curse or he was like a ghost or something along those lines. Like I didn't even know it was a science fiction novel, like really, until starting it for this pod.
Mhm.
That was my arc.
Yeah.
You had the
Your
same
villain
thing.
origin
Similar-
story.
I didn't
Origin
pick it
story.
though. I had a similar thing where I was assigned this book in my freshman year, and it was like early on in the year, and our teacher was like, "We're gonna read this book because it's like really important," and I was like, "Invisible,
Invisible
Man,
Man.
It's really important? This is a guy about an invisible guy?" And then you get into it, and you're like, "Oh boy,
This is not the Invisible
This
Man.
is
This is
rough."
Invisible Man.
Yeah. It was a great novel, but man, is it hard to get through. And as a freshman coming out of a pretty sheltered Christian school, reading that book, I was like, whoa.
Open your eyes right now.
Yeah, you get socked in the face by
Yeah,
a
a little
dose of
bit.
reality.
But it is an excellent book. It is not, again, what
Yeah.
we will be discussing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just make sure if you want to read a wacky, silly book about an invisible guy, put the
The
put the
in
in
Invisible
front.
Man.
The invisible. Make sure the is there.
Yeah,
Very
it makes a
important.
difference. Same thing with our movie today, though. It's The Invisible Man. It's not Invisible Man.
Yes.
Anyway, shall we get into our
I'm
research section?
excited.
I'm like nervous because, for our new listeners, I'm assuming we have new listeners by this point. For our new
Hopefully that's the goal.
For our new listeners, I've never done a research section before, so this is going to be my first time. This is not in any particular order. I'm just talking about what I feel like.
Okay.
Hope that's okay.
Sure. This is your research section.
This is my research section. So, first of all, this is a film produced by Blumhouse Productions.
Bloomhouse?
Blumhouse. Yes, so
Balloon House.
my actual horror story, my actual villain origin story, is when I interviewed at Blumhouse and I said Bloomhouse the first time I was talking to anybody there.
That's wild.
I did not get the jobs, just just so we all know. But anyway, so it's a Blumhouse Productions film. Anybody that knows Blumhouse knows that they like to do lower budgets and then hopefully obviously profit a lot at box office. So this was a big commercial success in 2020. It grossed 145 million worldwide and it only had a $7 million budget. So the people liked it. The people responded. This also came out, I should know this considering I did the research section, but I'm just going off memory right now. It came out before the pandemic. I believe it came out right before the pandemic.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So like early 2020.
March, I think, 2020.
Oh, that was
I wanna
like right
say,
when shit started to
literally
really
like,
pop
right.
off.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And so if this is, I should probably double check that. But I find in general that the movies that came out in early 2020 did wonders for the production companies that were able to like survive the pandemic. And I think Invisible Man is the prime example of that. In the case of like, again, this is a different company that also does horror, but in the case of Neon, obviously Parasite was able to carry them through 2020. And for Blumhouse, I'm sure they had other successes in 2020, but but The Invisible Man was a really big one for them. So
it was like kind of a surprise hit because it was just like The Invisible Man in 2020. What are you guys doing? And then like it turned out to be really good. People liked it.
Exactly. Like people responded to that in the box office and good for them. And I actually did not see this in theaters the first time I saw it. I should say this is also my favorite Blumhouse movie.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a bold.
That's wild.
I don't know if that's a bold take. I just really like the creative choices that Leonel did in working with this. Anyway, we'll get into that in a moment. So
I love him.
yes,
On Stan, for
I was gonna
sure.
say, like, if you're not familiar with Leonel, he also worked on Saw. I believe he co-wrote 3 of the movies.
Fun.
Definitely did the first one. I don't know.
And he was an EP as well.
Yeah, he produced a lot. Of
Yeah,
them.
so he's besties with James Wan. who I also
Insidious
stand.
too. He was
Yes.
an actor at least, or did he direct?
I don't know if he directed. I'm not sure. Sorry, slightly
acted.
out of my research section.
You're good. You're good.
But yeah, so huge fan of him. Huge horror brain, like big horror brain. Also Australian.
Oh,
Do with that information what you will. And
Congrats.
and of course, as follows with this Australian man, this whole film was filmed in Australia. And it claims that there's no references to anything American. But that's not true. I watched a YouTube essay on this. There's, so again, we'll go over in more detail, of course, for the viewers at home who can see me talking to you. For the listeners, sit tight. But the scene where where Cecilia, she like the ladder, the envelope, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
American address, not Australian address.
wow!
Disgusting.
How
Crazy.
dare they?
But also,
Ruins the movie.
It's no, I know. It's meant to be set in America.
Yeah, I feel
So
no one
that's
has
I
an
don't
accent.
like it doesn't really
San
matter.
Francisco. Don't they? Oh wait, am I thinking of it totally different? No, because don't they have the bridge?
No. Do they?
What did we watch?
With a
Wasn't I like,
bridge?
oh, Silicon Valley?
You did say that.
I thought.
Okay,
Swear
I
to
could be wrong
God,
about
I
that.
thought they had the bridge, and
You
I was
did
like,
say something
that
about-
seems like.
This is what IMDb is telling me.
I'm like, that would make sense because the tech is such a big thing there.
I think
Why
it
am
was.
remembering
I think it was
this?
just a bit you were doing where you were like, "Oh, are they in?" And then
In
you were trying to
Silicon
think
Valley.
of.
But
the
I
word.
wouldn't have thought of that if I didn't see like anything San Francisco.
I don't know.
Am I crazy?
No,
You're going crazy.
I think I'm going crazy. I'm going mad
That
like
blanket
Invisible
didn't
Man.
move.
Speaking of
crazy.
gaslighting, yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but it said in trivia about this that like to make it look like America, they like shipped like American mailboxes. Like they did do everything they could to make it look like America, even though you would think that like it would look similar enough anyway. Apparently that was really difficult. Also, like pine trees, I guess, are not native to Australia. So like the scene where she's like running and there's pine
Oh.
trees, it's actually all like strategically placed to make it look like she's running, but that's not like a natural setting in Australia.
Oh, weird.
Wild.
Fun.
Yeah, so I did not know it was filmed in Australia, but interesting, makes sense.
But so they wanted it to look like America, but also not to reference America.
I don't know. Okay, moving on. The main character's name is Cecilia, which is derived from the Latin "saesis." Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. Shout out IMDb.
Shout out Latin.
Shout out Latin, which means blind or eyeless, because she can't see the invisible man.
Wild.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. She's also frequently called C, short for Cecilia, because
She
C.
can't
C. Yeah, crazy. Really, and it is creative though. Like shout out to the creative people. I feel like I would not have done that, or I would have named her like
John.
John Smith.
John Bridgerton.
No
I
one
would've
will get
made
that.
some
It's a little
not
inside
funny to
joke. Sorry
anyone
about that,
but
listeners.
us.
Sorry.
the film was supposed to be part of the Dark Universe, which was supposed to be kicked off, I believe, with the 2017 Tom Cruise Mummy, but it didn't do so well, shockingly.
I
I
think
mean, I had never heard of it, so.
has anyone
the-
ever seen it? Any of us? I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. That's what I was gonna say. Is like I can't speak to its quality, but at least commercially, I don't believe it performed. So then that happened, and they were like, "Ooh, like what if we like didn't make this movie part of that
Back a little
universe?"
No.
And then I believe it was after that point that Lee Winnell joined. So it wasn't even probably going to be exactly the same interpretation when they were originally developing another version of this. So
I'm
It
so
evolved.
intrigued what that original script was.
Yeah, what it was
Like,
gonna be.
with Johnny
yeah.
Depp as the Invisible Man. That
Right.
sounds crazy.
That's
You
what
think Tom
I-
Cruise would have
yes.
shown up at some point in the movie?
what if Tom Cruise was the Invisible Man?
Cinematic universe.
Oh,
He's like the Nick Fury.
but yeah, cinematic universe, right? So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in theory, that probably like would have happened.
That's
right?
wild. I imagine him like Morbius. That comes
Morbius?
in trying to like get all the villains together.
Man, that's a
Would've been
reference I haven't
sick.
heard in a while.
Morbius?
Morbius.
Different time.
Different time. What time was that?
I don't
It's
know.
Morbin time.
Thank you.
And
Thank
we're gonna
you.
cut there and we're gonna come back. You're gonna notice a jump cut and it's gonna be a quick. Sorry about that,
Tessa's
guys.
gonna be gone in the next.
Sorry.
I get edited out.
Yeah.
There's just nothing here. It's,
Okay.
That.
Okay. So then, prepare for your minds to be blown.
I'm so excited.
So other alternative castings for Aiden were Alexander Skarsgård.
Mm-hmm. Whoa.
Thank
Cool.
you. Thank you. Thank you. You
Didn't
know what
know
though?
what that
I will
meant.
say, like, I feel like Alexander Skarsgård. Like, I feel like I read a lot of movies where they're like, originally Alexander Skarsgård was going to be considered for this, and I'm like,
turns it
okay,
down every time.
yeah.
That's the guy who played it, right? That's the
played It.
correct Skarsgård.
No, that's Bill Skarsgård.
Which one's Alexander?
Alexander's
the guy from the,
Mamma Mia?
cannot confirm or deny. He's the
the
guy, from
the Northman.
like Mia Goth. You know that movie?
There's how many Skarsgårds are there?
Oh,
Like
this is.
4.
Oh,
Is he the Brit one?
yes. Okay. He was in The Northman.
Yes,
He
that one.
was also. I'm trying to find that Mia Goth movie.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Infinity Pool.
Infinity Pool. Yes.
Love an Infinity Pool.
Cool.
Thank you. So yeah, so he originally was gonna be top choice, which would have been interesting. Also another interesting one, of course, is Armie Hammer was gonna be considered.
Classic. Cool guy.
He's not done
Yeah.
anything wrong.
No. What's he up to?
Staple.
What's he up to lately? You think?
What is he up to lately?
He is an actor.
He's in some good stuff.
He is acting still though, isn't he? Or no,
Is
he's
he?
not.
I feel like
I think he's gone.
I don't know.
I don't know because
Yeah, I don't
remember
think you can come back from cannibalism.
when was the cannibalism?
Probably his whole life.
No. Sorry, serious business for the victims, like serious. But like, what year
That's
was that? Was it
wild.
like 2021?
Probably.
Should I Google?
Yeah, Google.
Look
This is
up Armie
important.
Hammer.
This is really important. for
It
this
does matter
episode.
because the casting for this.
Oh, true.
I just want to know if they knew.
It had to have been post 2020 then.
Of course, shout out to the survivors. Or those who had to deal with Armie Hammer. I don't know if survivors is the right word. I'm not 100% clear on the situation.
I
Because I just know it was like over text. I don't know if it was like.
Yeah, I think it was like he just asked people to like role play him eating parts of them. I think was as
We
far
in
as it
fact
ever
do not
got.
have to include this as we decipher what the cannibalism was.
Yeah. I think he liked the idea.
See, I don't know if it ever actually happened in person. That's my whole thing. So like I don't
believe so, but I could be wrong.
right.
Has
I
it been a
don't.
long time?
I just remember like,
Cannibalistic Fantasies in 2021.
yeah,
right. But did
But
he?
he was
did
accused of some other things too.
Oh,
Yeah.
classic.
really? Like actually, like
Mhm.
assault.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, oops.
Okay, so survivors is correct. Okay,
Yes.
so a serious business for the survivors. That's not a joke. But again, I just want to know if the studios knew at the time of casting. But
when did you
but you
say
said it's 2021,
2021. So this would have been.
They
so
were
right
recording.
after. So they really dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, they did. Oh yeah, they did.
Anyway, so the opening sequence originally had music for it, but Lee Winnell and the sound design team felt that it worked better without music, just the sound of the crashing waves.
When she's
Smart.
running away from the
Yes,
house. Okay.
but yeah, the more you know.
Mm.
I feel like I hear stories like that all the time. Like the sound designer is just like, "What if we just did this?" Or and
And it's, like,
it's
sick as
always
hell.
it's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
better than like whatever. I mean, yeah,
I
and
can think of like in Order of the Phoenix when Harry is screaming for Sirius and it's just like silent and you
Yeah.
just see his expressions. Like that's more powerful, I think, than if we would have actually heard
yeah,
him.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, one of my favorite movies is 2001: Space Odyssey, and like obviously that's super famous for Stanley Kubrick using the temp score instead of the actual score, which I
Yeah.
guess is the exact. Well, that's not the sound designer. That's the composer.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite situation. But like directors making very intentional choices with sound and that ultimately impacting the product. And yeah, I think you can see that here. And then the last thing I'll say is that the password to Adrian's door is 1933, which of
Yes.
course is the year that the original movie came out. That's it for my research section and my trivia.
Nice.
Congratulations.
I did
You
it!
did it.
Oh my
Little
god!
bit.
Now we get to talk about the movie.
Let's
Nice.
talk about the movie. So obviously this is nothing like the book, but there are some fun little Easter eggs and like nods to the originals. Some I can think of include like the chair where she thinks someone's sitting on it. I feel like that's very iconic of the original movie.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like a psych out. Like it's not. There's no invisible man actually sitting there. I can think of like when she looks and she thinks she sees a man like with the cap and everything.
yeah.
It looks very like the original Griffin, but it's just like
Yes.
the daughter is a fashion design student or wants to be, and so that was kind of a fun little like, oh, like that looks like Griffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the. Oh, and I think you pointed out like the dogs sense invisibility in both.
Oh, I don't know if that's a reference. It might be because they do in the book. I don't know if they do use them in the movie too. In the book, it's a big deal that like, hey, everybody, dogs can sniff this guy out even though no one can see him. So like, have dogs. They're like his weakness is like to have dogs around.
Right. Well,
And,
I
like,
think that
there's-
must be intentional.
Yeah.
There's no. I don't believe that Lee wouldn't have done his research on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that that's an intentional callback.
Because the dog is like kind of prominent in the movie, in the 2020 movie. He's like his own little character.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice any other Easter eggs or nods?
Honestly, no. This is very different in
Yes.
like a lot of ways.
Well, I mean, like, this isn't an Easter egg. I don't know, but like thematically, I thought it was. It's like thematically, I thought it was the same. Action-wise, obviously, completely different. Even the perspective of the entire thing is completely different. But just the boiled-down idea of like the Invisible Man exercising his power, like that idea, which is in like the previous iterations. Like I think he says like it's all about power, like in the 1933 one or something. That nugget idea is the core that was transferred to the 2021. So it's like it is so different, but at the same time, it's like. But the idea of the Invisible Man, I feel like, is still very prominent with this one.
Yeah.
At least that's how I felt.
Yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are about this movie.
As an adaptation, it's very obviously nothing. It's nowhere close. But I think a lot of like really cool technical stuff I really enjoyed as I was watching it. I noticed a lot of the like camera movement was really cool. I don't know if I can explain this through just talking. A lot of the times they would do camera angles from almost like peeking around like a door frame or like around a corner, and then they would like kind of track like somebody walking around the corner. It like traditionally the shot that would be a shot of somebody like watching. Like that's like how cinematically you would show somebody is watching somebody else.
Like a
They would-
POV.
yes.
Mhm.
And they would do it a lot, and it would just be like for regular shots in a house. So but like implying that like, oh, maybe this is from the POV of this invisible guy or not, and it's kind of like ambiguous. And like 30 times they would just have like a static shot of like a corner with nothing in it.
It was
They
so
do it
cool.
all the time, and I
Yeah.
love it. It's just great. Or they would just have like a lot of open space in a shot with somebody sitting, and just like nothing would move or anything, but it would just they just have it all the time, just like a big empty space. And I love that that's just like consistent, just like messing with you, like the viewer. Like, am I supposed to be looking at that? Nothing. Does it move? It's really good. I like technically how the film is shot and executed a lot. It was really fun to watch.
And
Yeah.
those like POV shots originated from slashers, which is interesting because Lee Winnell is very much in the horror genre. So I'm sure he took some inspo from, Halloween and Black Christmas and those movies that very much utilized those kind of shots.
Like I said at the very beginning, I love this movie. I wouldn't say it's my favorite horror movie of all time. I do think it's my favorite Blumhouse production. because I thought this was a very, especially at the time, topical and appropriate translation of an idea of fear translated in a modern way that like completely reinvigorated the original story. Like now when you talk about Invisible Man, people think you're talking about the 2020 version. And you know, and I think most people tend to have a very positive reaction of it because of the things that you were talking about, the way that it's shot and the way that technically it is executed and how that really reinvigorated the story and like the genre. It's one of the main movies that I remember from 2020. And like I remember like maybe 2 or 3, and I remember Invisible Man, and I remember everybody talking about it at the time. And you know, we were a few years after Me Too. So, but it was, you know, still I enjoy this interpretation and the way that they explored it thematically and narratively. Not to like completely praise the movie because I do not think it's perfect, which we can talk more about, but this is one that I personally really enjoy.
Yeah, I think it was the end of a specific era in
Yeah.
horror where it was kind of the final quote unquote elevated horror of the time. Because
Yes.
post pandemic, we got a lot more fun horror movies like X, the Scream franchise,
Barbarian.
Barbarian.
Love
Yes.
Barbarian.
Yes.
We like the pandemic happened and we switched to more fun horror movies. 'Cause
Right.
people needed something lighthearted. So I feel like this came out at the perfect time right before that shift. I wonder if it would have done well. I still think it would have done well post pandemic, but
Right.
it was the last of that kind of era.
What else was coming out around that time then? Because again, I don't know much about
Horror-wise?
Yeah, horror wise. Why would you say that that's like the last of that era?
What
What
year
was it
did
like
Get Out come out?
Hereditary or stuff like that? What was coming out
Get
around that
Out,
time?
Hereditary, Midsommar.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Babadook kind of started it, and then through like the late 2010s, that was like a lot of elevated horror that had to do with like mental health, like health-based horror, and then that's kind of died out now.
It's this like psychological horror. I feel like
Exactly,
that's
that
the main
too.
thing, is
Mhm.
that it's like it's very much plays on the mind. And that's one thing I can also say about the movie, is that the movie is to me, it's an interesting watch as a woman watching it, because it's like for like 30% of the movie you're watching this and you're like, this woman is insane. You know what I mean? Like personally, like when I watched it, like, you know, because you're watching the Invisible Man movie, surely there actually is an Invisible Man, but they do a really good job of convincing you that she's crazy until you see the fight. You know, at least to me, I was like, it seems like she's having a trauma response. It really doesn't seem like she's physically, you know, it's hard. It's weird as that you are a participant as the viewer. I feel like
Yeah,
a
they do a
little
good
bit
job of being
more.
like, this could be going either way.
Right.
For like
yeah,
a
for
decent
for a
chunk.
chunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until you see some plate smashing in the middle of nowhere, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, she's 100% right, and she is screwed.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree. I believe her through all of it,
Mm,
even
okay.
the beginning. Like, I don't know. She plays it so well where I'm like, I could totally see how the people around her think she's going crazy, but like I'm totally with her the entire time. Should we start with the opening? What are our thoughts on the opening? Because I think it's really iconic.
Her escape.
Yeah, I think that's a really memorable scene.
It's very powerful. It's very gripping, I think. You're thrown into the action immediately, which is something that Blumhouse does, I think, in a lot of it's effective sometimes. It's not always effective. I think in this movie it is extremely effective because you understand her situation, especially sorry that I'm like, I love the opening.
Go for it.
But like especially when she like gets in the car. And then Aiden, like, you know, that moment that really cements it.
I was so pissed at her sister. I'm like, if somebody's telling you to drive, you drive.
hit
You
the gas.
don't question
Yeah,
anything.
don't ask anything.
Dude. Oh my god.
Yeah. But that whole, you know, you're like, and like the dog and like, yeah, it's just, you know.
It's definitely unnerving. And I think, yeah, the silence, I think that really makes it more powerful for sure.
Yeah, it's really good because they really do a good job making her feel like she is in the middle of nowhere. She is like trapped in this compound, this
Mhm.
dude's rich ass house. Like he has like a giant wall. He has like a gated wall, like a big cement wall around his house, and they're in like the middle of the woods.
He has like he's like a little tech castle.
Yeah, he does. I really like the opening a lot. I will say, I commented on it as we were watching. He just like fully punches in the car window with one punch. Dude is insanely strong.
Oh yeah.
Just like
Holy.
the OG Invisible Man.
Yeah.
They're both really strong.
Yeah.
We did talk about it in the last episode, For some reason, every iteration of the Invisible Man has super strength. Every
You know,
time.
yes. Like, yes.
I don't know why.
That should have been
Insanely
a part
strong.
of the drug. Like that should have been mentioned.
Yeah.
So then you could
Yeah.
get away with that thing without us
Yeah.
questioning it.
Right. No, that would make sense. And that, I don't know. I'm sure Wells could have come up with some science fiction-y reason why that would make sense, but he didn't.
No.
And
Yeah.
they're always shredded.
Yeah. They're always just so strong. Like for example, in the original book, there's so many times where like 6 dudes will be on top of Griffin.
It'll be like,
and he'll just say like, and then he threw them off. He got out. He just ran away. I was like, really? How? And then like I think in the movie there's a scene where he literally like picks a guy up by his ankles and swings him around like Super Mario 64, like and just throws him. It's like, oh, he's just a guy. How did he do that? In this movie, maybe that's a reference. Maybe that's a little Easter egg.
Maybe.
Super strong.
Yeah.
For
Was
whatever
Adrian?
reason.
His name is Adrian in this movie.
Did I
Adrian,
say,
yeah.
oh, I kept saying Aiden, my bad. Adrian. Adrian is correct, yeah.
Adrian just like one punches in a car window just so easily. They all have super
It's
strength.
scary too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like, I jumped.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that part with like, so she drops the diazepam, which she used to drug him. And then when it shows up later on in the bathroom, it's so scary. Like just, oh my God, it's
Well,
so
yeah, that's
unnerving.
when you start to, at least for me, we had different interpretations, but like for me, that's when you start to be like, oh.
Yeah, you're
This
like,
is-
oh, this is legit.
Jeez,
This is an
gonna-
invisible man.
This is going to be insane. And she is in danger.
There might be an invisible man involved in this movie.
Exactly.
Methinks.
Methinks. Yeah. The medication, scary. The fight scene in the kitchen, like.
It
that-
kind of looked silly. I don't know.
Really?
I thought
Oh
it
no,
looked
I
kinda
will never
silly.
forget the first time I watched it. I thought it was like really intense.
I think the first time I watched this movie, I liked it more.
Mm.
Obviously, because it was brand new. I had never seen anything like it. And like, obviously watching this time, like I knew the story beats or whatever. So
Mhm.
it didn't like hit me as hard, which is like, can't really blame something for that when you're familiar with the story, you
Yeah.
know? But yeah, I was like, I don't know why the fight scene didn't work for me that well.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is your first time watching
Yeah,
it.
what'd you
so
think?
like, what
Of
do you
the
think?
fight scene?
Or like
Mhm.
the movie in general. Like, were there any moments where you were like, this doesn't work for me? Or
Yeah,
it
I
does,
will
or-
say essentially every time that the Invisible Man is like dragging somebody around on the ground kind of doesn't work for me, because I'm thinking about it like physically, how are you holding somebody down and dragging them around? And at least the way they have them act in the movie, it's like they can't hit him. It's like they can't touch him, or like they're like trying but they're swinging at nothing, and it's like he has to be like directly on top of you to hold you down.
Right.
Like, how are they missing? Like, what are they? he's not like
right.
untouchable.
He's there.
Yeah.
He's still a dude in a suit.
Yeah, and it didn't quite like work. I didn't sell completely for me the scenes where he's like fighting people on the ground. And also I think it's funny that the first fight scene, she just hits him with like 3 plates in a row.
Yeah. Boom, boom. That would take me out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably, but it is funny that he just kind of sits there and takes 3 plates to the dome.
Yeah.
like over and
It's
over.
fine.
He
But
just-
you know what though?
Yeah.
Of all the versions of Invisible Man where it would make sense for him to have any sort of armor,
Mhm.
Yeah, he
it
does
would
actually-
probably be
yes.
this one.
He
You
actually
know?
is physically wearing a suit.
Yeah, so like that makes a little more sense
Yeah.
in terms of like super strength.
Mhm.
I'd say like as opposed to every other version where he's just like completely fine.
Well, to be fair, when he punches in the car window, that's just him. He's not in a suit.
Yeah.
He just-
There's no
And
explaining
scary.
that.
Just like
yeah.
Yeah.
one taps a car window is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I could totally see him being a gym bro though. Like he
Oh,
has
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah,
vibe.
yeah. Yeah. He
Mhm.
wakes up at 5 a.m.
He's
or
a fit-
earlier.
He's a fit
That's-
dude. He's a
People who
good-looking
do that
man.
are insane.
He starts with a protein shake.
eats
he goes-
just chicken and rice.
He
Yeah.
eats just chicken and rice. He goes down to the gym that's in his house.
For sure. 100%.
Yeah. He has a robot that makes him eggs.
This dude listens to Joe Rogan every day.
100%. Well, can we talk about our thoughts on this actor? Were you guys
Oh,
taken with him? Were you not?
I love him. I love this actor. So I am biased because he's from Haunting of Hill House. I don't know if any of you have seen
Yeah.
that show, and I think he's great in that. And so I was kind of biased because I just really like him in that. And I was happy to see him in this. I'm happy that guy got more work.
He was also I didn't realize he was in Bly Manor as well.
Oh, he
Oh,
is.
yeah.
That's
Who's in
right.
Bly Manor?
He's one of the spoilers for Bly Manor.
Oh yeah. This whole show is spoilers.
Well, I'd go watch Bly Manor. It's great. He's one of the ghosts. He's like one of the spirits trapped in there. in the house.
Okay, yeah, you're good memory. I
Yes.
didn't remember that. I
Mhm.
love Bly Manor. Anyway,
Is that based on a book?
Bly Manor. I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Ooh, I don't know.
Gulp.
Stupid. I love
This
that.
podcast sucks. All right.
I will say I mean, he's a good actor, obviously. But I do love my boy, the OG Griffin. He's just more memorable. I don't know.
Yeah,
But this version works, for this story.
for who he is. For
But
this
because he's
Yeah.
not the main character, so I'm
Yeah.
like, it's fine that you're kind of whatever.
Hmm.
It's her story.
Yeah.
It's not his story.
It's her story.
It's her.
It's character. Like when you say he's whatever.
He's not the focal point.
Yeah. No.
He's
Yeah.
To
You
the
mean like
side.
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
almost unnoticeable.
Yeah. He's
Well, okay.
nice.
But okay, you know what though? It is. Stop it. You're banned. Part of it is
We're both
complicated.
banned.
You
It's
barely
just gonna
notice
be
it.
It's
Sam.
just gonna be
You
me
gotta-
on this podcast.
You can kind of barely notice him in the movie.
Okay, I am jumping ahead a little bit chronologically in the movie, but also I think part of it is because of the brother, you know, and like who the Invisible Man is consistently also changes. I agree that it doesn't really.
It's true. There's
I'm not-
two invisible men.
I'm not too hell bent on is he exactly who I imagined because it's already more complicated than that.
Yeah, I didn't need him to be like OG
right,
crazy,
right.
But yeah, if I think of the Invisible Man, I'm imagining the guy with wrappings around and bandages
Yeah.
and like glasses. I'm not imagining this guy.
That's true. And this is
Oh,
semi-related.
should we mention? You mentioned there were two invisible men. Should we say?
Oh,
Right?
yeah,
I
we
didn't
probably-
talk about it in the synopsis.
Yes.
Oh,
So Adrian has a brother that helps him.
his name is like Eric or something.
I don't know.
I don't
I
remember.
can't remember.
And he's like in contact with Cecilia, saying like, "Oh, my brother died. He gave you this money. We're gonna give you a
You
certain
get
amount of money
$100K every week. I don't know. It's something like
Every
that.
Every month. I
month,
Every
think,
month,
which
yeah.
not
is still
really.
insane.
It's a
But
lot,
like, yeah. So he's in contact with Cecilia. He's trying to convince her that he also was a victim, that Adrian was abusive to him as well. It turns out he was working with Adrian all along.
Mhm.
Whoa!
There were two super suits.
What they twist? He was also an invisible man for
Say
like a little bit.
Wouldn't be a Blumhouse movie if there wasn't like a twist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. True.
It doesn't necessarily have to be like that shocking,
Mm-hmm.
but
It's a
There's
really.
always a
point
twist.
is we're hitting our points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They literally do like a Scooby Doo reveal where
Yeah.
after
They're like,
she like
"Boom,
beats
boom."
him, she pulls off his mask like at the end of a Scooby Doo episode, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
The other one, and then so it was him for like at least a portion of the movie.
Yeah,
just in
we
case
don't know
wanted
how
to-
many
we
of the
will never
encounters
know.
were
Yeah.
Adrian and how much were the brother.
Yes.
But that makes it kind of fun.
Yeah,
Mhm.
You never
exactly.
know.
And this was related to what we were talking about right before this, but the science of it. Like whenever I hear people talk about this movie, or like when my friend who was really trying to get me to watch this movie at the time was like, "Oh, you got to see it," and she like pitched it to me. She said he's like an Elon Musk type,
Mhm.
like tech god. Like that's
Yeah.
what he is. I feel like that's a pretty good characterization, and I also think it's a different interpretation than the science of every other version. The science of every other version, he's a chemist, he's like working in a lab, and then we transition for the 2020 version to him being this tech person.
Yeah.
And I have to say, impeccable timing. If we had it that if he was working in a lab in this we would never hear about this movie ever again. It coming out in 2020, I feel like it would have drowned,
I could see that.
you know?
No, they
But
did
like
a good job updating.
it's a
who he
really
is,
good
yeah.
thing that they changed the science behind it to be more topical, but also like to very narrowly if they didn't, or they were even closer to the original material, I think it would have been really weird. You know?
It's also a really like weird, interesting suit design that he has with
True.
all the like. It's what is that, trypophobia, where there's like a bunch of
Mm.
holes on something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because basically his suit is just covered in little camera lenses that like I don't know, reflect light or something, like record and reflect his surroundings. I
It
don't know.
still has
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it's like it's completely different tech from the original
Yeah.
science that we've established.
Which I think is how people have in real life tried to do cloaking. is have like a camera
Hmm.
record what's in front and back and then like project it. That's like a way that we've tried to do cloaking in real life.
Okay, so
Wow.
there's
I don't think
science behind it.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
is. I don't think it's worked out very well. It's hard to do, but that's like probably where they got that idea. There is actually really. I'm getting way off topic. There's like a cool riot shield that people have. It's like a type of glass that reflects light in a really interesting way, and you can kind of hold it in front of yourself, and you can see behind them somehow.
Huh.
It's still like blurry, and you can obviously see, but it like reflects to where you disappear if you stand behind it. I don't know how it works, but it's a really
Huh.
cool thing. Anyway, sorry. Get off
Interesting.
topic. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned how like this movie's topical, and another element that I think like works well now is the fact that he messes with her birth control. She does not want to have children, and he's really wants to have children, but she's like, if I do, then I'm stuck with this guy.
Right. I
And-
cannot break down the
Oof.
logic personally of like, I still don't like, no, like I understand it in the movie. It's not that I don't understand it. You know what I mean? But I also like in my head, I'm just like, you know, like, I don't know.
No, explain.
Like, I just like,
I don't understand.
like personally, like if I were a man, I just wouldn't.
If
Like,
I were a boy.
if I were a man and she wanted to leave, I would let her go. But that's, you know,
Well,
I don't
yeah, I
know.
would hope so.
It's kind of like what his character is. He's not like a cool
No,
dude.
I know. And like I get that. I just like he just sucks. Anyway.
I
Yeah.
think that's the point, yeah.
Anyway, talking about birth control as we were.
Well, no, I feel like that's obviously in a post-Roe world, this hits really hard.
It's different even
Um,
than when it came out.
yeah, it's already shifted.
Yeah.
The way we view things has shifted already,
Right.
and it's only been 4 years old.
I will say not a lot of this movie got me to be like, ooh, this is spooky, or like, ah, that's rough. But the like reveal when she's like in the mental hospital that she is pregnant, like
That was scary.
that actually
Chills.
like got me. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, this is awful. This sucks, man.
yeah.
You know what it reminded me of, though, a little bit?
Hmm.
In Catching Fire, when PETA drops that Katniss is pregnant, it had the same effect, kind of.
I know. It's
Similar?
so stupid that I know the exact thing. you're
No, I
referencing.
literally watched this
Oh.
clip like 2 days ago. Like yes.
See? I'm
Yeah.
not crazy. Obviously, in this version, it's scarier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Hunger Games, PETA is, if you haven't seen Hunger Games Catching Fire, PETA is using it to like gain sympathy for Katniss. But it's still like that kind of mic drop, like, oh shoot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is crazy.
Shout out Josh Hutcherson.
Come on the pod.
Do, 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 do. Can you whistle? Yeah,
Oh, my lips are dry. There you go.
thank you.
No
Wow.
problem.
Can we dive into Cecilia's character a little bit?
No.
We've talked about Adrian, but okay.
Yeah, we can talk about C.
Okay. Because I just find it kind of funny. We mentioned that she's a Scientologist.
Sorry, the actress is a Scientologist?
The actress is
To
a
clarify.
Scientologist.
Yeah.
Not clear if the character is a Scientologist.
To be
Yes.
clear. Anyway, sorry. Scientology.
Anyway, I thought it was kind of funny when she's having her little moment at the table and describing, you know, being in this relationship and how she felt like she couldn't leave. Like, she was like listing all these things. And I'm like, It's like you're talking about Scientology almost. I was like, how are you not?
You want to
Putting
call
two
up
and two.
Elizabeth and just like tell her this? I wonder if
Yeah, hit up your
she
Blumhouse
probably
Connect.
hasn't considered this before.
No, I just thought it was kind of like ironic. I don't know.
We should do an episode on Scientology.
No,
sure
we
that'd
should not. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Anyway, did you guys like her performance? Do you think she nailed it? Like, or
She's great.
not?
I feel like she
Okay.
makes the movie.
Okay.
Yeah. She is what carries the movie.
Yes.
She's really, really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cool.
What do you think?
No, I agree.
No, she sucks.
So we all like it?
Yeah, no, I just didn't know. Yeah.
What if you were just like, she stinks? It's actually terrible.
You can't even say that to Elizabeth Moss. Like,
No,
it's
she
not
is amazing.
possible. She's good in everything she does. But did you guys like the character? Okay.
Oh,
Forgetting.
sorry. Yeah, the character.
No, the character. Do you have any thoughts on her portrayal? Or not portrayal. Let me rephrase that
arc?
sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys like her character arc?
You know, it's interesting. I feel like the ending of the movie is so like if we're gonna talk about like where she starts and where she ends, the ending is so interesting. I remember I got like like chills and like freaked out, and honestly like morally gray. The more I think about it, the less morally gray it becomes. But like the first time I watched it, I was like,
It makes sense. That's
yeah,
the
yeah,
only logical conclusion, because in her mind, she's like, I'm not 100% safe unless this guy's dead.
yeah. No, it makes
It makes
complete
sense. Yeah. For those who don't know.
But also,
she
like,
I did mention at the beginning, she
that-
does
yeah.
kill Adrian. And I think it's the only conclusion you could come to.
Right. And also I imagine that it's very cathartic, because I think most people who are survivors of abusive relationships do not get to kill their ex abuser. That's not a normal situation. So I imagine that seeing it in the movie was it serves justice for viewers probably pretty effectively. That
It's
might have been in a similar situation.
And it's kind of like in Midsummer, the same thing, that same
Similar,
catharsis.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And people in a similar vein, they're like, you're not supposed to root for Danny in that movie. And it's like, yeah, duh. But also, it's fiction. Like, it's fun to
Let
root
me.
for the bad guys. Like, let me root for the murderer, okay? It's
Just
fun.
this once.
Yeah.
Yeah. But talking
Good for
about
her. That's the
Good for
that's
her.
the the subgenre.
The point of this
yeah.
episode is that murder is okay.
It's
And,
okay.
yeah, and we
But yeah, in terms of talking about her growth and how she's like written, I feel like the ending is the thing that really cements it to me.
I will say they did get my ass, because I was like, she's towards the end of the movie, she's after the brother gets Scooby-Dooed, and it's revealed that he is the guy that got
Mhm.
shot because she shoots him. And they like collect the suit as evidence, and then she's still trying to convince James, her cop
Yeah.
friend. She's like, no, trust me, he's still out there, and he's still gonna be fucking with me. He's still gonna be invisible. He's still gonna be an invisible man. And he just doesn't believe her. He's like, dude, it's over. Dude.
It's like she's been right this
Yeah.
entire time.
And
You're
I-
a best believer,
yeah.
my guy.
And as that scene's happening, I'm like, what do you do? You know that there's a second suit. Tell him about the second suit. And I was like, that's so dumb. This is such a stupid conflict. And then they use that at the end because she
Mhm.
uses the second suit to invisibly assassinate Adrian.
Pays
So
off very well. They tie up their ends.
I thought they were being dumb by having her not mention it, but she intentionally didn't mention it so that she could use it.
And then he
not-
notices in the bag the second
she
suit.
intentionally doesn't tell her cop friend so that way she can illegally straight up murder this dude.
Yeah.
And
and
he's
it was-
down with it.
yeah.
He's like,
I
"Okay,
mean, yeah.
I didn't see anything."
Yeah, it was cool. They got me. I thought they messed up. They didn't. It was part of the plot.
No.
It was well written. I liked it a lot. It was good stuff.
I will say, the one thing that I kind of thought was a little ridiculous was when Sydney got hit and thinks Cecilia did it. And I'm like,
Oh.
she is several feet away from you. There's no way.
That's such a frustrating moment as a
Oh
viewer.
my
It's
God.
just
Okay. So just to, if you haven't seen the movie, imagine about this distance. The
if you
Cecilia.
can see.
Yeah. If you can see, if you're
You're
not
watching
like
on
a good,
YouTube.
if you're not watching, like Cecilia.
This is great audio content for our listeners
Yeah,
at
yeah.
home.
If you're listening at home, Cecilia, our main character, is sitting like 3 feet away from her cop friend James's daughter, and they're in like on the floor, and they're sitting like 3 feet away. And what's his daughter's name?
Sydney.
Sydney. Sydney just gets like decked in the face out of nowhere, and she gets up and is like, "Why would you do this, Cecilia?" And they're like 3 feet apart, and then they all blame Cecilia for her getting punched in the face. They're so far away. It literally makes zero sense. I thought that scene was actually so unbelievable. I thought it was like a dream sequence, and she was like having a dream. And I was like, "Oh, she's gonna wake up.
Yeah.
This is so silly." And no, it's like a real. That may be my least favorite scene. in
The two,
movie.
yeah.
I forgot about that one.
You know, this is a slight tangent. This movie does not remind me of this other movie exactly, but if I could make a sub genre,
Several subs.
a lot of elevated horror about trauma, about women experiencing trauma and crazy things happening that you think are a dream and that are not. The Invisible Man, and Smile.
Oh,
Oh, okay. I
In my
can see
head,
that.
for whatever reason, those two are like linked a little bit. I don't know why.
yeah. Yeah, okay. I see that. I was gonna say something about Smile when we were talking about like the genre of kind of elevated horror going away. And I
Yeah.
feel like Smile kind of
And
tried
specifically,
to
like,
harken back to that. It's
Mhm.
one of the few horror
Specifically,
movies
like-
I've seen recently.
well, yeah, specifically like the trauma part of it, and like
Yes.
that being such a central focus. That's a very central thing of The Invisible Man. It's also, in a different way,
Mhm.
a very central thing in Smile.
Yeah.
I think Talk to Me also kind of
Oh,
falls
yeah.
into
I
that
haven't
elevated
seen that.
horror.
You haven't seen it yet?
Thing.
No.
It's pretty good.
I want to because
Yeah,
I
you
know
should see
I know the directors from YouTube. I used to watch their YouTube videos way back in the day.
Also Australian, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, Australian or New Zealand? Is it Australian?
Oh, I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
I thought it was
think so.
Australian,
it might
but
be
now
New
I'm
Zealand.
I can't quite remember.
sorry to our Australian
No,
listeners
Australian?
at home.
Okay. It's
Disembodied
Australian.
voice.
Thank
We're
you.
getting a message. They're from Australia.
I want to talk about the difference in tone because
Mm-hmm.
in the book, it's more serious, but in the 1933 movie, it's comical.
Mhm.
And then in this, it goes back to being serious again.
Very serious.
Yeah, much serious in a different way than the book. Very
The
serious.
book's got some funny moments.
Yeah.
For sure.
I would argue that because we take the position of somebody peripheral to the Invisible Man in every version, I think that was serious. Like, I think all of them take it seriously. It's just that normally we get it from the perspective of the person who is invisible. And so, like, their reactions seem out of proportion. But, like, actually, if we focused on, if it really was following just somebody who was affected,
Oh, I see
the
what you're
tone
saying.
probably would have been serious in every single version.
I
You
get
know what I
you
mean?
Yeah, if you were just following like a townsperson,
That'd be traumatic.
yeah, getting like beat up
Being
and having
robbed?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the story I want.
Yeah.
I want the take on
That
that.
The
sucks. So
townsperson number 5. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's their story?
I
That
mean,
guy that got his bike stolen.
The guy who got
Yeah.
his hat flipped off. I want to
Yeah.
know what
I
he's
like that
going
guy.
it's
through.
probably serious. He's in therapy.
Mhm. Well, for sure.
People didn't go
They
to
didn't have
therapy
therapy.
No.
at
You
that time.
You just held
When
that
was
in.
therapy invented?
It's a
I don't know.
good-
When was Sigmund Freud around? Was he a therapist or was he just like psychology? He probably did. He probably did.
He
therapy.
wasn't
He
correct all the time.
Freud?
No.
No.
He was certainly a therapist.
He
That's why
was.
there's like the couch thing. Yeah. Isn't
Oh
that from
yeah,
Freud?
I think that is his whole. Bit.
Yeah.
I think
That he
you're
sits
right.
on a couch.
No, the patient is on the couch.
That's a Freud thing.
Yeah.
That's where it originated.
I'm like
from?
99% sure of this.
I believe you,
What?
and we're not going to fact check.
nope.
Nope.
This is school, guys. We don't fact check. Y'all have any other thoughts on the tone?
In terms of, I don't know how. Well, I feel like we pretty much talked about it already. How very different the tone is from this to either of the original, the book, or the original
Yeah.
movie. Or and I'm assuming any of the other sequels that you watched.
Oh yeah, we're gonna dive into 2 more sequels later in the episode.
If we have time, I also do want to talk about the TV show. 'cause
Right,
I feel
okay.
Like,
There's
only
also
if there's
a TV
time.
show.
Like, I don't want to, like.
There's multiple TV shows.
I only watched.
About the Invisible Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Oh
only
my
watched the
God.
60s one. I watched 2 episodes.
Yeah, and I think there's one in the 80s which I didn't get to, but that
Oh,
also
okay.
exists. Mm-hmm.
We can always revisit this.
I think that'd be fun in the future, like
yeah, retrospect.
episodes looking at the sequels, looking at the different TV shows.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, agree.
Watch like a whole TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd
that'd
be
be fun.
fun.
I'm down with that.
Yeah. I think the tone is appropriate considering the science changes to me. I feel like were like really important because like now knowing the source material, like the science in the other versions is comical in itself. You know what I mean? It's like this dude makes some juices together and now he's invisible, and it's like that is kind of insane and like a little wacky.
Yeah.
The science of this, the baseline of the whole story is believable for our current modern world. You know what I mean? Like the basic tenet of what's going on, it doesn't seem preposterous. So
Yeah.
I think that the tone is consistent with that.
To give credit to the science in the book, I think Wells, like I mentioned last episode, really tried to make it seem believable and like in
Mhm.
his descriptions. And obviously he predicted so much in terms of sci-fi and like
Mhm.
what actually exists now that I'm like, yeah, if he lived today and like wrote The Invisible Man, I guarantee it would have been
Yeah.
tech.
Oh,
He
for
could-
sure.
oh,
Yeah, no.
100%.
I agree with you completely. I think I'm more thinking of the 1933 movie. That's a little more wacky with its science.
Oh, I see.
Like
Okay.
Wells is very thorough with, and again for 1897, absolutely. But I think the 1933 movie takes a more comical look at that and
Mm.
like the look at my beakers and
Yeah.
I agree.
potion.
Okay.
And then in 2020, obviously, it's like Elon Musk, dude.
Mm.
I just can't get over my friend telling me that. I
No,
just think
that's
it's such a
perfect.
perfect descriptor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they both do a good job. They both do a similar. This is like the classic sci-fi thing. We're both in the book. It's like I'm going to tell you a bunch of really cool facts that are true. Like glass does become invisible in water. So if you could simply match the refractive
Mhm.
index of the human pigment to air, it would technically be invisible. And it's like, this all makes sense. How did he do it? And then he goes, and then he did it. And then he made a potion and he made a doohickey like
A potion.
he made a potion and then put it in a doohickey, and then the doohickey with like an engine made him invisible. And he did it. And he's like, oh, all right. You get right up to the point where you go, how? And then he goes, he did. And then you're good. It's
Believe.
like, there was enough science for me to go, okay. And that's kind of like in this movie. They're like, he has a suit that covers his whole body, and there's lenses all over that take in data from around him and then
See
project.
an iPad,
Yeah.
she moves around.
Yeah, there's like cameras on it, and it projects the images around him. And it's like, well, how does that work? It does, and he's invisible. And it's like, oh, all right.
Fair
They give you just enough to be like, I get it, and then they just that's like, but that's classic sci-fi. It's good. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, to give credit to the screenwriters, like, that's about as far as I could get. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no.
even if you did explain it further, I wouldn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think
That's all we
both-
needed.
Yeah.
It was in defense of the book version of science. I think he does a
True.
good job of getting you right up to the point and being like, and then he's just invisible.
And then, yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah, you get it.
How did y'all feel about the middle part of the movie? Because we talked about the beginning, we talked about the end a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like the middle section is where I kind of like zoned out a lot.
I heard criticism, and I remember this at the time as well, that it is slower.
Yes,
I think
I could agree with that.
If one feels that way, one would feel it the most during the middle. Makes the most sense.
What are we talking about? Some examples of what is the middle in this movie? What scenes are you in particular saying kind of dragged? If
So,
you can think of
like-
any.
I'm thinking about like visiting the brother, and then like
Yeah,
visiting the brother again,
that's right. Yeah,
and then like scenes of that nature. I mean, I don't think it's non-essential though. Like that's
it's important.
I think
yeah.
all of it is important, but I also understand why one would.
Even like I liked the mental asylum or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a mental asylum?
something like that.
Where like that hallway scene where the Invisible Man is like
Oh yeah,
killing
with the
those
gun.
cops.
Yeah.
That was scary. But then for some reason, when she goes outside in the rain, I'm like, I don't know. It like lost me.
Mm-hmm.
It just
And
drags a little too long.
It drags a little too long. And I can't remember if there was a point where like the rain was falling on him. Like, and so you could see his outline. Did that happen?
Yeah, it happens.
That
Yeah.
happened? Okay.
Because at that point, his suit is like glitching a little bit, and you can kind of see it. But when he
Mhm.
is invisible, you can kind of see it. Like,
Which,
going around
you know, it's a logical conclusion, but it is also a callback to the original text. Doesn't he talk about like rain
yeah,
and snow and
Yeah.
how that outline makes him visible? So
Good
that
point.
you know that is from the source material.
I don't know if this is shown because near the beginning, they're like, she's cooking eggs or something, and it burns because he turns the oven up.
Oh yeah, it's like bacon or something.
a silly little prank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we see him like in the smoke? Because I'm like, that would have been so
Oh,
cool.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
The movie is overflowing with little Easter eggs like that, like little moments where you could or couldn't see him, or explicitly you do not see him, and that's why it's scary. So it's like it's really hard for me to place exactly like when it definitely was there, which is, you know, again, credit to the execution.
I guess I don't know. I felt like the first time I watched this, I was more engaged than I was the second time, and it could be just because I was familiar with the story beats and was kind of like whatever about it. But I don't know. I felt like my interest kind of waned, like weirdly enough, when the action started happening, when people were
fight? Or
like when her relationships were being severed, when she was being isolated and trying to prove she wasn't crazy. For some reason, that is when my attention kind of deteriorated a little bit.
you know what scene spikes it for me though? The one that really like such a frustrating scene with the sister.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
In her apartment or at the
At the
Restaurant.
restaurant.
Oh yeah, that's incredible.
Oh
yeah.
my god. Like it's so like because you're like and then it's like
Mhm.
you know?
What a
When you're,
summary
like-
of that scene.
like
Do you want to explain what happened?
Like she got it. Like they were on the same like it was all gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And then the death and then the framing and it's sorry, that was not an
That was
explanation.
incredible. No, that was an incredible scene. That's definitely what was a memorable moment for me.
Mm.
Yeah, it's very emotionally noteworthy, I guess.
And gut wrenching too.
Gut wrenching is a great word.
Yeah,
Because even when you watched, you were like, "Wait, what?"
yeah, it happens really fast.
Yeah,
It
that's
does,
what's
yeah.
so good about it.
Yeah,
Right.
she is having dinner with her sister. They're like reconciling.
And you don't see it coming.
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming. the first time I
Early in the
watched it.
movie, her sister and Cecilia have a falling out because Adrian sends like an email, like a mean email. to
You're
her.
like, you just want my money.
Yeah, you're smelly. And then and her sister's like, I hate you, and they stop talking.
Yeah.
And then like later on in the movie, they reconcile, they go to dinner, and then he invisibly just picks up like the knife at their table and then slits her throat.
And then he
And then
puts the knife
puts the knife
in
in
Cecilia's
his
hand, which gets her arrested.
Yeah. I do think it is. I did think it was like crazy, but then I thought about it for a second and I was like, how did he get her to close her hand around it? He just like high fives the knife into her hand. Why was her hand here? Because she's like
She was
holding
ready
it like
for
this. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that is a good point.
It
That
is
kind of
it's like a really well executed scene. And then after it happened, I was like, why was she doing this?
You think too hard about it, kind of falls apart a little bit.
But
Yeah.
it's a good scene. It like happens so quick. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But it's a little funny. But it's a good scene. I enjoy it.
I feel like we've been overwhelmingly positive this episode.
That's surprising. Yeah.
I know.
From
I'm
all
like,
three of
like,
us.
I can't think of anything more I have to say. I feel like we covered everything, and I think it was good.
We got some negatives. I think we got some good critiques. I personally brought up a few that I didn't think worked for me, but yeah, overall, this is a solid movie. There's not much like overall.
Yeah, watch it.
It works well. It's good.
It's good. Listeners at home, let us know what you think. Do we have like an email or a way for them to contact? I feel like I say like watch it at home, and then I like never give any inclination on how to reach
somehow
out.
we'll have a way to interact.
We are dreadfuldigestpod@gmail.com.
Yeah, tell us what you think. Tell us what you love. Tell us what you
Don't
hate.
spam us though.
You will get blocked,
We'll get
and you will not be able to
banned.
listen to this.
I will find your house.
Okay. Shall we move on to the this versus that?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm
I
excited
would
for
love
this.
to,
versus
Tessa.
that.
I just got two. Okay.
Okay.
But I think they're pretty decent.
Yeah.
Adrian Griffin versus Jack Griffin.
Like who would win in a fight? Or
You can base it
Who's got the best
whatever
drip?
you want to base it
'Cause
off of.
Jack's got
Okay.
it covered.
Who do you prefer, or who do you think would win in a fight? Whatever you want to talk about.
Jack Griffin for both of those. Jack Griffin, he's got swag. He is dripped out. He is dressed to the nines in every single scene. He is chewing up the scenery at all times. And this dude is swinging around human beings, full grown men, like sacks of potatoes. He is tearing up Adrian. All right.
But
Adrian,
you know, Jack Griffin's weakness is a gun, and Adrian Griffin has a gun.
Oh, true.
see, yeah.
That's so true. Well, then again, Adrian Griffin doesn't get shot. His brother gets shot. Oh, shoot. For all we know.
Oh, shoot. Continue.
Banned from the pod.
Anyways, I'm picking Jack Griffin every day of the week. That's my boy. That's my boy.
Represent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that I agree with you. I think,
I thought you were gonna give a
no,
hot take.
I was not. Well, the thing is, it's hard in terms of which one I prefer. Obviously, Jack Griffin. Adrian is genuinely evil in terms of like villains, like evil. Jack being like, I want a reign of terror. It's like, okay, I don't know, like that's like,
It's like good try,
it's,
but
yeah, like
you
pat
know.
on the back, I guess.
I hope it
Like,
works out for you, bud.
Like, I mean, I do not, but but it didn't really, so I'm okay with that. And like, he's just a lot less concerning to me. The other thing is like, I feel like it's implied that Adrian has a lot more potential use with his power because he's like a tech guy and he's made this tech invention that can be easily applied. Whereas Jack, it's like, no, he has a few steps before he gets to his reign of terror. You know what I mean? Like Jack, how are you going to distribute your potion, or your vaccine or whatever it is that you want to make everybody invisible with? Like, how actually are you going to do that? Hasn't thought about it. And I like my villains like that.
like
Not thinking.
Adrian.
No, like Jack.
Oh,
They haven't
where
completely
they're
thought
kinda-
it through.
Yeah, they're kind of
Yeah,
dumb. Mhm.
Exactly. Like if they, you know what I mean? Like Adrian's like rotten to the core. That's to say, who would win in a fight though? I kind of think Adrian would win in a fight.
Hot take.
I know. I just think that there's more potential with the suit that we know about. I know I'm going a little bit fictional with this, but I feel like, if his suit does protect him in any way, Jack is just a naked dude. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's
Like
true.
Jack is a naked man
Mhm.
running around. And that's like he's like he could get messed up.
And
True.
Adrian is so smart and manipulative. Like
Yeah.
he could totally get into Jack's head. Plus, he can just take off the suit and be visible while
Right.
Jack is stuck being invisible.
Right, like Jack
That is
has a lot of weaknesses. Adrian
Yeah.
doesn't have like weaknesses in terms of like the invisibility part of it. You know what I mean?
I got you.
I also feel like maybe he's working on making his suit like weaponized. Maybe he has like a gun.
Iron Man.
Tony Stark.
That is exactly what I'm suggesting. And and then he would definitely mess up Jack.
Do they?
I fear.
Not to derail a bit. Do they? They must say it at some point. What is Adrian's job in the 2020 movie?
It says optics engineer, whatever that means.
Optics engine, because why is he building?
See,
Why does he
super
have
suit.
Right.
Just a hobby.
an optics engineer?
Everyone's got to have
All
a
right.
hobby.
I'll buy it.
Like, what are the practical implications of his suit?
Like a lot.
Really? Like, the average human wants to be invisible?
No, but like for military purposes?
No, okay, sure.
Ooh, yeah.
It's not commercial then?
Oh, I'd imagine not. I'd imagine you aren't just
Gotta
dropping
pass
that
it
at your
for-
local
we're getting-
Walmart. Okay, you only grab my invisibility
My
suit,
invisibility
dude.
suit. But, like, we're getting back into the whole invisible man's use for the military. And this is such an interesting idea
Well,
because,
that's
like,
right. It does
I
come
can't
up.
think of a single other, like nobody's like Dracula should work for the US military. Nobody's saying that. Everybody's saying the invisible man should work for the US military. Why? I don't know. I just think it's funny that it's so consistent.
Yeah, we brought it up in 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And we'll bring it up again when we
Yep.
talk about the invisible agent. Next, this versus that. Oh, wait. Let me say my opinion.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
I gotta vote for Jack Griffin. He's my boy.
To
He's my
win or
fave.
like your fave?
My fave. In terms of who would win, I agree. Adrian Griffin, he's gonna top every single
The
time.
window punch.
You guys
Yeah,
don't
that was
get it.
scary.
You
That was
guys just
scary.
don't get it. You don't understand the level.
And that's okay. You can support
Yeah.
Jack.
Listen, I'm like an anime nerd, so I see people power scaling, if you know what that is, all the time. Like characters, that's where you like take shit that characters do and try to like contextualize how strong this person would be. Okay.
Oh, don't they do that in D&D too?
I guess kinda, yeah. I get
Okay.
what you're kind of saying. Jack Griffin, not only does he swing a man around like Bowser from Super Mario 64 and throw him, he also beats up Kemp, hog ties him, and then puts him in a bag, or like he like picks him up fully, picks him up and throws him in a car. He's like consistently multiple times able to just pick up grown men and throw them. He's literally a superhero.
But doesn't Adrian do that too? Like
Does
not
he?
like lift.
Oh, I
but
guess
like,
he does
you know what I-
drag. He does drag people around. You're right.
This, I mean, this was one of the things you talked about, how he's like
True,
manhandling everyone.
but maybe. No, you're right. He is pretty strong.
And he could create, even if this suit wasn't strong, he could create another suit that has
Exactly.
super strength.
Maybe there's an update.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
imagining like a fight happening between two invisible people and how funny that would be.
Can they see
In a
each other?
boxing ring?
Just literally nothing happening. Just,
That's so good.
Dude, we should do that. That's a
Again,
really good
can
idea.
they see each other in the
Patreon.
fight?
No.
So they're both
No,
running
they-
around. We can
neither of
see them running
no,
around.
Neither of them know where the other is.
Wow.
they just have to
That's
fight.
so funny. All right, next one. Invisibility serum versus super suit. What would you use? What would you do?
Super suit, so I can get in and out of it. I don't want to be invisible forever. Is that
Yeah.
the whole issue with?
That is
It's-
the
it's-
issue.
it's
That's
his-
the main
it's the-
issue.
It's his
main
whole
issue.
problem in the
That's
book.
the
in the
plot. Yeah.
Is that it sucks that he can't not be invisible.
Yeah.
He has to be invisible all
right.
the time. It
Wait,
sucks.
is the choice if I were to choose one?
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah, suit.
I'm picking the suit.
Yeah.
Okay.
There
Yeah,
we go.
same.
Yeah.
We're all in
Yeah.
agreement.
That's an easy one.
Easy.
Easy. That was our this versus that segment. Do you want to talk about the show or should I get into the sequels real quick?
I'll talk about the show. My first note from the TV show. This is, I should have double checked the year. I think it's 1963, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. It's definitely 60s though. My first note from the show, he's not naked. They say in the show he's like there's literally a line about this. I don't know why this is. It does make me wonder about like censorship with TV and like movies, and like I don't know if that plays a role here and why he's naked in some versions and not naked in others. But he says in the TV show, he's like, well, it's a good thing that my sweater is made out of like animals' wool because anything animal can turn invisible.
Ah.
And that's
What?
how they justify it. And so the only you can see him with an overcoat for some reason, but when he takes it off, he's not naked in the show. And that this like when I was talking about like it's so weird that he's naked. Like it's weird that like why are the rules the way that they are? And it's like because in the TV show they're like he's not naked, he's clothed. Don't worry about it. He has clothes on.
Don't think too hard about it.
There's also scenes with him and a child in the TV show because he has a niece, and so I imagine that's also why he's
Oh.
not canonically naked in the show.
But okay, yeah.
The main-
it's probably a good idea.
Not that, yeah, again, like he's invisible, but you know what I mean? Like that also might be a motivation there. The other thing is that the main difference between the show and the past two versions and every other version is that the Invisible Man is not evil in the show. He gets, it's an experiment gone wrong. He gets turned invisible. He desperately wants to become visible. He goes to Kemp for help to become visible. And then Kemp is like, you have so much power with this though. You could control the world with this. And Kemp is convincing him
Oh.
that he should be evil. Whereas he the entire time is like, no, like this is horrible, like I don't want to be this way, this was a mistake, like, and he is so remorseful. It's a very different take on the character overall. They make him into like a hero.
So he doesn't want to cause a reign of terror.
He does not want to cause a reign of terror.
Dang.
It's Kemp is the one who wants him to cause a reign of terror.
Huh.
It's so weird. He sees him in the first episode, and Kemp is like, and then Kemp is like, nope, that was a psychology test. I just wanted to make sure that like you didn't want to be evil or anything.
Oh,
And then
just
he's
a
like,
goof?
yeah, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't want to be evil. And then Kemp
Psych.
is like, haha, yeah. And it's like, okay, he's definitely the villain. Yeah, he like desperately wants to. Also, his name is Peter Brady in the show. His name is not Griffin.
Ew. That's not okay.
He has a sister who he's like really close with in the show, which I think is really interesting because it's
This
like
guy seems boring.
he's a superhero. He's not a supervillain. And then in the second
Okay.
episode, literally the second episode of this show, they were like, this dude has implications for the military. We're gonna send him to the
Every
Middle
time.
East, and they have like it's called like Trouble in the Desert. That's like what the second episode is called, and they like parachute him in.
What?
Is the parachute not invisible? Is it
The
visible?
parachute is not invisible.
That's really
It's
funny.
invisible, and you see like parachuting
Just an
down.
empty parachute?
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
Exactly. But it's so interesting because the whole time, like, he does not want to. He so badly just wants to go back to being a scientist and like hanging out with his sister and like, you know, and then the US military is like, no, but like, you gotta help. You've been gifted with this. You have to help us. And he's like, okay, fine, I guess. And like, that's the show. It's so different from every other version.
So he's just like fighting
Wow.
bad guys? It's just like
He's
episodic.
fighting bad guys, and exactly and it's a 60s show. It's almost like think like, yeah, I mean, you know, you've seen shows from the 60s. Think like Twilight Zone. Think like, I mean, Bewitched. I don't know if Bewitched is 60s, but it's that kind of like vibe.
Okay.
I Dream of Jeannie, kind of like it's very obviously sets.
Mhm.
The production design goes crazy, similar to the older versions because they're doing all these very interesting. The way that they show him like removing his bandages and he does it in front of like his niece because his niece comes in and is like, "Mom, who is that?" And he's like, "Don't worry, it's me, your Uncle Peter." And then he like takes off his bandages and she like feels his face. And then she's like, "Oh, like hi, Uncle Peter." Like it's so wildly different.
Were the special effects good?
Better, obviously, than the 1933 version.
Okay.
I thought like not bad. Like I wrote down in my notes like how did they do this like multiple times because like I can't envision how they did certain things. And I didn't see any wires when I was watching. But it's I would call the show cute. You
Hmm.
know,
Interesting.
it's just a very like very different. But again, going back to the whole military thing, I feel like this is a good transition to talk about Agent Invisible.
Agent Invisible. Yes. So I watched all the sequels and I touched on 2 of them last episode. And I'm going to touch on the next 2 in this one. There's a movie called The Invisible Agent, which came out in 1942. And it is the 3rd in the franchise. Vastly different. This is a spy film, not horror at all. And it focuses on Griffin's grandson in America. And so
They
this
switched
is
to America.
he's in America now.
Hmm.
He wants nothing to do with this serum.
We are in World War II right now, right?
We are
Wait, what
in
year is
World War
this?
II. Yeah, so this is 1942. And during this time, we had a lot of propaganda films coming out.
Oh, yeah.
And this was like another example of that in horror. They were trying to support the troops
Mhm.
or whatevs. So basically, it follows Griffin's grandson. He has the invisibility serum. People are trying to come after him. The Axis powers, they threaten him for the invisibility formula. He refuses. He also refuses to give the drug to the American government, interestingly enough. But after the attack of Pearl Harbor, he's like, okay, I'll use it on myself and I will fight for you guys. But no one
Wow.
else can have
Wait,
this
so
serum.
like canonically, Pearl Harbor happens.
Yes,
And he's like, I gotta intervene.
I gotta go. Yeah.
I gotta become invisible
Yep.
Yeah.
and do something about this.
Wouldn't have happened on my watch. Like
Yeah.
that's
I would have simply intervened.
I
as the
would have simply
Invisible
ended World War II.
Man. Yeah.
Weirdly enough, these special effects in these sequels are not as good as in the 30s. That's why I wanted to ask. I'm like, these definitely went backwards in terms of
Really?
the special effects. Yeah. There's moments where you could see like the black fabric on his hands and
Hmm.
stuff. Not great. But what I thought was interesting while looking at these sequels is that they're allowed to depart so much from the original. And it's like franchises back then had that freedom, and I feel like that's not the case anymore. Like, people are like, you cannot change the source material, you can't change this character. And with this, they're like, whatever, spy film with an invisible man, let's go for it.
Mm.
Yeah. So, anyway, like I said, the U.S. entered World War II, propaganda and horror movies mixed at this point, and it replaced the cynicism of the 30s with the flag waving of the 40s. That was a quote I found, and I was like, that encapsulates this
Wow.
film perfectly.
Yeah.
This sort of happens where like if you have a successful thing and you're like, this is successful, but we want to make more money off of it. We don't know how. Because like the original Invisible Man, he's a bad guy. He's not a good dude at all. And then in subsequent sequels, they're just kind of like, actually, well, we got this property, this like IP laying around. What are we gonna do with an invisible guy? Oh, he's a good guy now. He just does cool guy
Right.
stuff, and he's a hero. That's exactly what happened with like Godzilla as well. Originally, he's a monster. They're trying to kill Godzilla. He's a bat. He's just destroying Tokyo. It's a thing you have to get rid of. And then as time goes on, they're like, well, that was a really successful movie. We want to make more. What do we do? Godzilla became like a good guy.
Kind of sympathize with him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel
Godzilla
like that makes sense.
Yeah, Godzilla becomes like, and then as time goes on, I think it was like 60s, 70s, Godzilla is like a kids movie thing. It's all like for kids.
Wow.
And then they completely change what he just loses entirely what he was originally supposed to be. And I feel like that's what happened with the Invisible Man as well. He's just like, now he's just a good guy.
Well, it's interesting
Yeah.
you say that because it's kind of like, I mean, obviously Universal monsters themselves kind of are this way, but I like that you mentioned Godzilla because I feel like this is a modern day legend. You know what I mean? It being applied in all these different ways and the way that this like basic concept is able to be changed and reworked, but also like everybody pretty much knows what you're talking about when you refer to it is like the closest we could have in like American culture, I would think, to just like legend
Like
slash
mythology.
folklore. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's as close as we could get since like the 1700s for us, right?
Yeah, it's cool.
And that's the lifespan of it is like it goes from original story into being kind of just this like idea that you can morph and make into a kid's character and make into a good guy this time and do all this stuff with.
Yeah, and then same thing, like Invisible Man 2020 loops all the way back around to the Invisible Man being a bad guy.
Right.
Just in the same way that the most recent Godzilla film, -1,
Mm-hmm.
bad guy again. He's all the way back. He wrapped back around that you go like, oh, he's a bad dude. This is the original meaning. And then it's like, I don't know what to do with this guy. He's kind of a good guy now, I guess. And then
Right.
he's a villain again. And it'll probably loop back around. So long
Right.
as these like mythological characters exist, they'll constantly cycle between what they mean and what they're for.
Mhm.
That's fun. It's fun to see the trajectory of these things.
Yeah, definitely. So I did watch the last movie in the franchise called The Invisible Man's Revenge, and this came out in 1944. And it doesn't share continuity with the other films. Although the second one doesn't. Wait, no. The Invisible Woman also doesn't share continuity. And this one doesn't share continuity either. But there is a character named Griffin. He's just not related to the OG Griffin at all.
Why would they do that?
I don't know.
That's such an interesting creative decision.
Yeah. I didn't get a whole lot of notes on this one. It was kind of my least favorite. So basically, a mad scientist tests invisibility serum on an escapee from a mental institution. And a dog kills him. That's what I wrote.
Huh? That's all you wrote down?
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
A dog kills. It's called Revenge of the Invisible Man, and a dog kills him.
Yeah.
The dog kills who? The Invisible Man?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold on. You have no other context for why this occurred? What happened?
I think in this one, and I should have specified, in this one, he escapes. He's given this invisibility serum, and he tries to terrorize this family that, like, they were working together in the past, and then they left him to die, and then they took all this wealth from this, like, diamond. In Africa, they had, like, this diamond mine or something.
Okay.
And they were supposed to split it with him, this guy named Griffin, who is not the Griffin that we know and love. And so he's like, well, screw you. I'm going to go after you guys. And that's what I remember.
Okay.
I kind of zoned out on a lot of these. I'm so sorry.
It's a lot of movies. That again,
I got them all mixed up in my head.
it's a
My
lot
bad.
of content. They switch how the character acts. They switch what the central theme is. They switch the characters' names around. Again, it just goes back to the idea of like this whole thing is really just an idea more than it is like an agreed upon story.
Mm-hmm.
How does a dog kill him?
Just like bites him.
Like mauls him.
Yeah, mauls him.
He just
It's
dies?
German Shepherd.
What
yeah.
the hell?
Maybe okay. hear me out. So like, you know how Dracula's weakness, well, he has multiple weaknesses, but Dracula has one weakness, like garlic or like a wooden stake. You know what I mean? Actually, I'm saying this, but this is a great example where I'm talking about the myth of vampires. I don't know that I can actually name Dracula's specific, but my point is like, you know how they have, it's like superheroes, like they have a weakness.
Yeah.
Invisible Man, dogs. Doesn't
It
really
is-
matter how hard he bites
Yeah.
him. He's just out.
It is a consistent theme. The dogs,
Yeah.
dogs fuck him up.
Well, that's our series on the Invisible Man. We looked at both movies, the franchise as a whole, and yeah. Any final thoughts?
Highly recommend watching both the 1933 and 2020 versions of these movies. Both great times for different reasons, very different reasons.
Yes.
High praise all around.
Mm-hmm. But that's all I have, really.
Yeah, you can skip the sequels. You're fine.
You can, yeah. You can pretty much skip literally. You know what? You know what we didn't do at the end of last episode? If you don't mind. Book or movie, and then movie or movie.
Oh,
Ooh.
you're so right.
Oh, this is tough.
I think I'm gonna have to go with 1933 movie over the book.
Agree.
And if I were to watch these movies again, oh, that's tough because it's so fresh that I'm like, I don't want to rewatch these movies. But if
Yeah.
I have to choose which one, I probably am gonna go with the 1933 one because it's a fun time. I just
It
like
is
Griffin,
so
the
fun.
character.
It's
a
short
lot.
too. It's like less than an hour
That's
and a
a
half.
good point. That is a plus.
It's like
for the
you can just
old
throw
one.
that on.
Yeah.
And it's genuinely entertaining. Classic. I don't want to kill. I don't know why I'm acting like this is MFK, but like I don't want to kill the 2020 version either. I think if for me it would be 33 over book, 2020 over 33. What about you, Michael?
Ooh, okay.
I think I have to go. I enjoyed the book more than you guys did, but I think I have to go 33 over the book. It's just a blast. It's such a fun time watching that movie. And the book is kind of just like as an experience, fine. It's like a solid sci-fi story, but there's nothing like special, I think, about it. It's special for the time, I imagine. There's probably nothing else like that around that time. That's probably why it was so popular and why it still is. But the movie, I think, is just a lot more fun to experience. And then I think I might pick 33 over the 2020.
Fair
movie.
enough.
I think I have to.
They're so hard to compare, though.
They're
It's
so
insane.
wildly that's why I asked, because they're so wildly different.
Crazy to compare them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I kind of have to. But yeah, they're both good. But I think I have to go just as an overall enjoyment factor. I'm going 33. It's so stupid, and I love it. It's great.
It is so fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's our series on the Invisible Man. You can follow us on @DreadfulDigestPod on Instagram and TikTok. Yeah. We'll see you in 2 weeks,
See you
y'all.
in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Thanks for listening and watching. I love you.
Thank you.